Hello and happy morning. I'm MANALO, a BSA1-1, and I'm here to share some knowledge with you about the various topics that we covered at Understanding the Self. One of the prerequisites we had to complete for our teacher at UTS to allow us to pass our course and serve as our midterm test was to create a 7-minute video presenting our standpoint, observation, and understanding of the 3 questions she gave us. The following are the queries. Number 1. Do you consider the Philippine government to be truly democratic? Why do you say so? Number 2. What is your concept of a meaningful life? Explain your answer. And number 3. What is your general idea of beauty? What is beautiful to you? So without further ado, let's start. For question number 1, do you or I consider the Philippine government truly democratic? Why do you or I say so? To enable us to more accurately assess if our Philippine government is actually a democratic one, let me provide you with some information on what the term democracy means and the traits of a nation that practices this form of administration. The word democracy comes from the Greek words demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning rule or power. So democracy can be thought of as a power of the people or rule of the people, a term used to characterize a political structure in which the means of a government depend on the consent of a people, a kind of government where the country cherishes the rights, welfare, or entirely of its citizens' lives. Just as President Abraham Lincoln stated in the Gettysburg Address, democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. This is why a democratic nation has the distinctive quality that all of its citizens have the right to take part in decision-making, whether directly or indirectly. But what does this direct and indirect involvement of the populace in a democracy actually mean? Apart from numerous distinct forms of democratic administration in various regions of the nation, these are simply two terms that define how people participate in running their government. However, let's limit our attention to the two primary forms of democracy seen around the globe today, namely direct and representative, also known as indirect democracy. Direct democracy. This is also referred to as pure democracy, where citizens vote on laws and policies themselves rather than electing representatives to represent them. Direct democracy comes to mind when you conceive of a democracy in which the people control every aspect of society. People vote directly for laws and changes to the government rather than having a representative on their behalf. Everyone must vote on everything, even road repairs and tax increases. There are differing views on direct democracy. First is participatory, and second is democracy deliberative theory. Ang participatory democracy ay kung saan ang mga tao ay gumagamit ng inisyatiba at mga referendum upang magbigay ng kontribusyon sa kanilang pamahalaan. Nagbibigay ito sa bawat tao na gumawa ng makabuluhang kontribusyon. Ang isa pang direktang teorya ng demokrasya ay ang deliberative theory. Sa teoryang ito, ang mga mamamayan ay magsasalang-alang ng mga patakaran at reforma ng pamahalaan sa kanilang mga sarili upang makabuo ng pinakamahusay na mga patakaran at batas para sa lahat. Indirect democracy. This is more commonly referred to as representative democracy, and it contrasts with the preceding kinds of democratic political system. This is so that it's clear that when we talk about representative democracy, it refers to the system in which citizens elect representatives to exercise their rights. It is the most prevalent type of democracy in the world, allowing for the indirect participation of individuals in the administration of a nation's government. This is due to the fact that in a country with a representative democracy, the individuals you elect represent you at a regional, parliamentary, and executive levels and engage in discussions about the needs of the area and thoughts its citizens. Following are some features of democratic society that can help us understand how a nation can be claimed and to have a democratic governance. Elements of democracy. Democracy is not an oligarchy in which a small group of people rule. It is the opposite of autocracy or dictatorship in which one person rules. These are various forms of democracy and each type has its own sets of norms. Any democracy typically consists of four components. First, election process for choosing government officers and positions. Second, protecting all people's rights. And third, politics and civics are actively engaged in by citizens. Last, the laws apply to all citizens equally. Therefore, if we carefully examine the current situation of the Philippine political system based on the aforementioned data, we can declare that we have a democratic government because we possess traits and authority that we only see in nations that have a democratic rule. But how can I claim that our administration is democratic? This is due to the four characteristics or qualities that I have described as being present in a democratic nation. Let's put this together so we can demonstrate whether the Philippines truly is a democracy. For number one, the election process for choosing government officers and positions. Does the Philippines actually possess a democratic form of governance where the populace has the power to select the members of and those in control of the government? Yes, the Philippines fits the first description of a democratic nation. This is due to the fact that we Filipinos actually have a so-called election process where we are allowed to participate in the government to choose leaders who represent us, or if we so want, we can take on the role of national leaders. As Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR, stated, everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country directly or through freely chosen representatives. For number two, protecting all people's rights. Does our government really put Filipino citizens' interests first in order to defend and uphold our rights? In my opinion, yes. Even though we are aware that justice in our nation is still sluggish and that numerous injustices continue to violate citizens' rights, our government, or let's say all of it, is always present. The protection of the laws and policies they uphold is always their main concern. Just like Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR, tells us that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of the government. So, democracy is in fact the only form of government which is consistent with human rights. This is why, whenever we hear about bills being introduced in the Senate, with the assistance of the many senators and congressmen acting as the voice or representative of each region, we always hear that each of these bills is intended to address the needs and problems they perceive in society, to show that all laws are designed for us, the people of the Philippines, so that we are all protected by the government and have freedom, especially when it comes to exercising our rights. Our only issue is its misuse or applications, as well as the associated personal interests. For number three, politics and civics are actively engaged by citizens. Can we observe the people of our country, the Philippines, actively participating in running the government? Yes, in my opinion. This type of participation is common in our nation and is just as crucial to the efficient operation of democracy as voting in elections. By demonstrating their strong desire to reform our government, standing up for their ideals, and not being oblivious in the mismanagement they see in our government. The public shows that they are willingly given a major role in the community as well as in political affairs. The activist groups are the union of protesters, where large numbers of people, many of them youths, took the streets to voice their concerns with the government, students who protested in the nations against government initiatives to enforce education fee, and workers who expressed their concerns about the effects of both economic and governmental cuts, as well as the people who founded the groups that supported environmental movements, denounced the eliminations of essential state services, and spoke out against socially unjust practices, are examples of various innovative levels of civic and political participation that we observe in the country. For number 4, the laws apply to all citizens equally. Does the Philippine government really treat all of its citizens equally under the law? Everyone is equal in the eyes of the law, I believe, but not in the way the law operates in our society. Yes, the idea of the rule of law in the Philippines is that no one is above the law and that all laws are made to protect the nation's citizens. However, we cannot deny that not all our residents are subject to the same laws and procedures. In our nation, there is no guarantee that applications will be made equally and fairly available to public and the government. There are still aspects of society and standards that have an impact on how the law, rights, and freedoms apply to every citizen of our nation. One such aspect is social status, which makes it difficult to obtain justice if you come from a challenging social background, but allows you to break the law if you are wealthy or in a position or in a power. The same holds true for any other characteristic like race, culture, religion, etc. that leads to our Filipinos being mistreated and abused by the law, or let's say those in positions of power or influence. Next, for question number 2, what is your concept of a meaningful life? Explain your answer. According to an article published by Take George, a meaningful life is one in which you feel devoted, connected to purpose, and able to connect your gifts and talents to your highest ideas. We can therefore conclude that each person has a unique perspective on his or her life and a unique way of defining whether or not it has been significant. It only states that it is up to the individual how they will use themselves and their lives. It may be up to their desires, potential, needs, or experiences, level of self-satisfaction, and maybe what they observe in their surroundings. This is why my idea of a meaningful life centers on how I behave and interact with others, how I engage with others, and how I do to help others. Because making other people happy and smiling changes how I feel about myself. It's like that by just being helpful to them, even in a small way, and by taking action that you know would be beneficial to them, you may realize that no matter who or what you are, you still have real worth and you can contribute to the happiness of others. It serves as a reminder that through your good deeds and interaction with others, you discover your life's purpose. You can say that you are making an effort to inspire and touch the lives of others. It's just like the message expressed in 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 10 to 11, a passage from the Bible. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. And Philippians chapter 2 verse 3 to 4, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, In humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. For question number 3, what is your general idea of beauty? What is beautiful for you? In general, I don't define beauty by what other people think of us or by the norms set by the society we live in. It cannot be described or standardized by others. Rather, it is found in how we view ourselves, in the things that reflect who we are, and in the criteria we establish for ourselves to ensure that we are beautiful and attractive. Given that everyone has a different idea of what constitutes beauty, why do we let others people tell us whether we are attractive or handsome? Yes, it's undeniable that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but why must we give more weight to what others have to say instead of our own judgment of what is best for us, if it ends up being merely a personal opinion? Since it is your beauty and not someone else, who else should express admiration for it? It's only us. So our unique judgment should count when judging our own attractiveness. Being white or even black, curly or straight, big or slender, or possessing other qualities that are desirable in the eyes of others should not affect how we perceive our own attractiveness if we are the first to value and be happy about ourselves.